Welcome to the Toka Backstage Podcast. Join Toka's Executive Director, Chris Wolf, in conversations with the artists and people behind the scenes of the Torrance Cultural Arts Foundation's performances and events.
Hi, this is Chris Wolf, the Executive Director of the Torrance Cultural Arts Foundation, here with another episode of Toka Backstage. It is my extreme honor to have Young Kang, the Artistic Director for UnitOne, the taiko group that will be performing their new world premiere show, Shiki, on September 24th at the Armstrong Theater. Young, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me, how did you first get into taiko?
Let's see. Yeah, that's a good question. Just like many other taiko players in North America, I was introduced to taiko through collegiate taiko. So I went to UCLA, local LA boy. UCLA Yukai Daiko was my first introduction to taiko, and then it's been love at first sight, and I've played taiko ever since.
So you actually started in college?
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of people, their first introduction to taiko is collegiate taiko. And yeah, sometimes I regret that I found it too late, but here I am.
It's interesting because granted, I know very little about the history of taiko, but it seems that I just find it interesting that people find it so late, whereas like with other instruments like piano and in America at least, people are like having to practice 12 hours a day, starting when they're 2. But with taiko, it seems almost like it's something in like a passion that just is inside you that you discover in college.
Right. And, I think one of the things that it also has to do with how the barrier to entry is a little bit lower than maybe, say, like violin, where you might be struggling for the first, decade or whatever to just play somewhat in tune. Whereas taiko, if you have the passion for it, you can just kind of jump straight in head first and start making loud noises. So I think that's a part of it.
Well, I also guess there's a little barrier as far as where you can practice and where you can get the instrument, right?
That's right. And yeah, taiko, that's a great point. Taiko itself is hard to come by. So a lot of these collegiate groups start with tires, like car tires wrapped in saran wrap to emulate that sound. And they're looking at like garages, like university garages to practice that. So yeah, it's definitely a passion project when you're getting started, for sure.
Well, and I noticed that the other thing about taiko that's always sort of interested me is the fact that like I said earlier, with guitar, it's like you stand there and you strum you play your song, but with taiko, I don't know what the right word is, but it's almost more participatory, where you're playing, you're dancing, you're moving. There's more choreography to it. It's literally like a all-encompassing instrument where your whole body gets into it.
Definitely, it's a combination of musicianship, athleticism, stage presence, and just everything combined, which I think is what's so attractive about taiko. It's so multidisciplinary.
Well, it's fun to watch. It's again, not knowing much about it other than the fact of what I've seen on stages. It really is a joy to watch. It's almost like going to a dance concert and a musical concert all in one.
Exactly, and I think it really lends itself to a great tool for building a really great community. And I think the Los Angeles Taiko Institute, where Asano Taiko U.S, where UnitOne is hosted, I think they've done a really great job of kind of building a really huge community around that art form, because because it is so complementary.
Well, and I gotta give a shout out to Asano Taiko. I actually they're in Torrance. I actually got to go and take a introductory class
Oh, awesome.
once, and actually I won it at a silent auction, and like eight of my other friends went, and it was great. I was horrible at it, but I had a blast. I mean, I'm barely can keep time on listening to the radio. Um, so as their new artistic director, what is your hope for this group? What do you see? Well, first of all, as an artistic director, what is your main position? What do you do as an artistic director?
Let's see. I feel like I'm in Office Space or something. What do you do here? Let's see.
Yeah, that would be great.
I know, right? So I am in charge of a lot of the compositions that are within the show. And broader picture, I am in charge of making some of the more artistic decisions, and stage directions and lighting and such, and kind of the overall direction of the show. And of course, it's very much a team effort, so I delegate a lot to the UnitOne team members, to refine each piece or come up with ideas. But yeah, I guess I'm in charge of the flow of the show there.
Awesome. And what's your trajectory for the group? I mean, is it I mean, this is like a world premiere piece. Are you going to take this and tour it? Are you going to do more different shows?
Yeah, I think that's what we're trying to figure out as a group. Um, I think we all have different aspirations, so I think this show Shiki is a good stepping stone for us to kind of put together a complete show and figure out where we're going to go from there.
And the subtitle for Shiki is "What We Wish to Remember." Is there like an underlying theme to that? I mean, I don't know what does Shiki mean in English.
So Shiki means four seasons in Japanese. So it kind of comes from an assignment from Katsuji Asano, our CEO at Asano Taiko U.S., where he said, okay, the newer members of the group write four pieces based on the four seasons of Japan. So that was our assignment years back. And so all went off and wrote our pieces, with me being in charge of autumn and other members being in charge of other seasons there. And then the pandemic happened. So we had, like many other people, we had our virtual concert and things like that. But I think when we kind of came out of it, what we said was, okay, we have these pieces, but you know, tied to those pieces are these memories of either Japan or, somewhere we call home that we we kind of reminisce, that somewhere that we can't visit because of either the pandemic or whatever. So that kind of became the central subject of the show, tied around this, central theme of the seasons.
That that's awesome. And so and again, I think is there like a I'm just trying to think that if there's like the four seasons, is that the whole length, the whole show, or is there other things interspersed amongst the four seasons?
Sure, I think the four season make up the, let's say, the skeleton of the show, and they're the structure of the show for sure. Where we actually start with the heat of summer, and we end with, we go through the seasons, summer, autumn, the cold winter, and then we kind of come out of it, with a sense of rejuvenation into spring, and then we end again with the vibrant summer festival. So that's kind of the flow of our show with, other pieces interspersed.
No,
right there.
I know that like taiko is just the type of drum, right? I mean,
Yes.
but there are multiple different types of drums because there's like the kind that sit on the floor, and then there's the huge. Are they all, again, forgive the stupid questions.
Oh, no, no, no.
Are they all taiko, or is there like different names for each drum?
Oh, they're all, under the umbrella of taiko with, different drums having different names. Like, you have the small drum named shime daiko. So that's kind of the rhythm keeper, right? With the highest pitch sound. Then in the middle, you have the true daiko, where it's about it's about the size of a wine barrel, and that's kind of the meat of the sound. And then you have the old daiko, which the sky's the limit as to how big it can get, and that's really the punch in the gut sound, where it just vibrates the entire auditorium. So those are kind of the examples of different kinds of taiko, but they're taiko nonetheless.
And then I've noticed in past concerts that there's also like chimes and forgive me, I don't know the name, the flute, the wind instrument. Um,
Yes.
when you create a composition for taiko, do you write all that, or do you like write the drum portions and then give it off to somebody else to write um, the the wind
All
instrument?
right. Yeah, that's a good question. I think it definitely depends on the piece, and the composer. Certain composers feel more comfortable with certain instruments, so they write the piece kind of around it and then hand it off to other people. In some instances, it's a one-person show where they just kind of write the whole darn thing. But yeah, in this Shiki show, I think you'll see a combination of those ideas. Our finale piece is kind of a summation or kind of a medley of all the different seasons, kind of representing the experiences that you've built through the different seasons: summer, autumn, winter, spring, and then back into summer. So it's a medley of those different pieces representing ideas from a whole bunch of different composers within the group. So that would be an example of us kind of collaborating, handing off ideas to one another.
And do you have a personal favorite that you like to play? Personal drum?
Let's see. That personal favorite drum. It's probably our old Aiko, our biggest and heaviest drum, because it's so satisfying to play that drum. And so much time and effort went into making that drum, from Asano Taiko, and it's a real joy to play.
Well, and that's the other thing, because Asano Taiko is an org is a they actually make the drums, correct?
And that's correct.
And they're based in Torrance, but they have correct me if I'm wrong, but don't they also have an Asano Taiko in Japan?
That's right. So Asano Taiko is from Japan, and Asano Taiko U.S., the U.S. branch of Asano Taiko, is in Torrance. That's right.
And so that must be satisfying to know that you're involved with an organization or company that actually creates the instruments that you guys get to play. I mean, it lends itself to a certain respect, I would imagine, of the instrument.
Oh, that's right. And you can really tell by the way, the staff and students and everyone involved, treat the drum. And we have cleaning rituals after every practice and making sure the drums are in top shape. And even the practice space is squeaky clean. So yeah, I think there's a lot of reverence for those drums.
Well, and I will say to anyone listening or watching this that if you have an opportunity, Asano Taiko does offer every now and again they offer free introductory lessons. Just go sign up, check it out, and you literally have no excuse to not get a ticket to come see Shiki because you now understand where the drums come from and the rituals and the types of drums. So trust me, it will be an amazing experience. Have
Time will
you
tell.
did you personally write some of the compositions that will be on the September 24th show?
That's right. Yeah, and I was responsible for Autumn, that is in the show in the seasons series, and a piece called Avalanche, which I wrote with another UnitOne member, Masamiano, and it's kind of a battle almost battle for survival between these two odaiko, the biggest drums. So I think that'll be really exciting to see.
So when you first learned about taiko, what do you think the immediate attraction was? Was it just the percussiveness of it? Was it the actual instrument itself, or just was it something that you looked like fun to do?
I think it's a combination of all those things. I mean, I have, I guess I can say I have some classical music background where I studied the flute for a long time and I played with the UCLA Symphony. So I have some musical background there. And then when I first saw taiko, it was almost like, okay, it's like a whole new world of music that I didn't know could exist, where you combine, the musicianship and the athleticism and everything else. So yeah, I think that's what was so initially attractive about it and remain attractive to this day.
One thing I found interesting is that I mean, again, I have to keep reiterating the fact that I'm really somewhat naive as far as the history and everything taiko, but the taiko shows that I've seen, um, they're really pretty much. Uh, I've seen Kodo. I've seen obviously uh, some of the Asano Taiko stuff, but it seems that it's more than just Japan or Japanese people involved in the everyday taiko, that like literally it's an instrument for everybody. And I think people may just assume, oh well, that's something that I can't get into because it's a Japanese thing.
Right.
It really is open to everybody, right?
Yeah, and that's definitely true. And I think especially North American taiko is it's a very welcoming community where even the beginnerist of beginners can join. And you know, Los Angeles Taiko Institute, Lati, our school here, is really welcoming of the beginners and really help nurture and develop them into taiko players. And yeah.
Well, that was the one thing I have to say. Again, giving kudos to Asano Taiko and Lati, is that it the shows that they produce in Torrance in December, which is sort of almost their showcase or their recitals. It
Mhm.
really is. I mean, if you walk backstage, granted, there's a bazillion people backstage, but it really is like open to everybody. I mean, there's for I think I saw like what looked like a 2, 3 year old running around with taiko sticks, and then all the way up to the seniors. It's a very cool thing, and I think that you're right. It's a very welcoming community because I mean I when I've seen the studios, it's like everybody's been very kind to me.
Yeah, definitely. And I think another part has to do with how modern taiko is kind of a combination of different types of music. I mean, obviously, it started from a very traditional place, but in North America, especially where we play taiko in kind of a group setting, a lot of it has to do with improvisation and things like that. So there's a lot of jazz influence and modern drum set influence. So I think people from different backgrounds find it easy to okay, say, all right, this seems like something that's familiar to me, even though the instrument itself may be foreign. So that I think that's what makes it so approachable.
Well, and I honestly have to say I don't think the instrument is foreign because I mean it really is just a beautiful drum, but I think that the thing that maybe people don't, and I don't mean to speak for everybody, but it's almost like it's they look on it and they see. I think the barrier is respect, because I think there's a certain amount of respect that goes into uh, the instrument, or maybe it's just ignorance that they don't know that it's literally a drum and you can go play it. I mean, it's not like it's a,
Yeah. And I think a lot of students, when they first approach Taiko, uh, there's also kind of an intimidation factor, right? It's such a big
yeah,
drum as well.
yeah, exactly.
But I think that turns into a healthy mix of reverence and, curiosity and passion down the road. Yeah.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. It definitely is a passion, because I think anybody who sort of is able to do what you guys, I mean, quite frankly, when I watch the Taiko show, after 20 minutes, I'm like, how are these people still standing? I would be like out of breath, on the ground, just, gasping. Um, but you guys are, again, I think it's just training, it's passion, and it's a love for what you do. And it's evident on stage, because it just, the audience, I think, just enjoys it immensely.
Thank you. Thanks for saying that.
So again, it's Shiki, it's UnitOne Taiko, September 24th, at 8 p.m. at the Armstrong Theater. Young, I do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for taking it.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot
And
of fun.
and we'll look forward to seeing you there. And just one last question. When people leave the theater, what do you hope they leave with after watching the show?
I think one of the key themes that we would like to communicate through this show is the sense of perseverance. So I know a lot of people are going through different things right now, but through the seasons, what we wanted to communicate was the ability to kind of keep going and keep going, regardless of what's happening, and kind of making it through the through the other side, and being able to really celebrate. So that perseverance is, I think, what we're trying to achieve in the group right now, and hopefully that's the main takeaway from the show for the audience as well.
Well, and I think that's sort of very important right now these days, with so much. I mean, if it's not the pandemic, it's politics. If it's not politics, it's something else. And it's like, yeah, we can all use a little hope. And so again, I hope everyone comes, speaking of hope, to Shiki, September 24th. You're actually opening our season, and we're very excited about it. So we're opening our season with a world premiere. Artistic Director Young Kang, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Chris.